Welcome, viewers. Thank you for taking time out of your day to tune in. We are super excited to see you here. For those tuning in for the first time, this is the on.net live show, and our mission here is to empower all of you, hopefully, to achieve more. I'm your familiar host, Scott Addy, joined by also familiar co-hosts, Katie Savage and Myra Wenzel. Our friend Saeed joins us today, and we're going to talk about stateful AI experiences in .NET. Saeed, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Saeed Esmail-Nejad. I am a Microsoft MVP, and I'm having more than 10 years in .NET development, all the Microsoft stack, and having some experiences in different areas like banking systems, stock exchange, and also currently working at Leeds Building Society, living in Leeds in the UK. And yeah, happy to be here with you all.
All right. Thanks for that intro. Viewers, just as a reminder, if you have questions throughout the show, please drop those in chat. I know we have a lot of content to get through today. So Saeed, why don't we just dive right into the slides and start there?
Yeah, sure. All right. So here we are going to talk about how to use stateful AI into our .NET applications. Basically, we are trying to do kind of, when it comes to a real production product, how to use it correctly in a good way. And we are trying to check different scenarios and having a demo with a Blazor application that we can see how it is actually working. As I said, my name is Saeed Esmail-Nejad, Microsoft MVP, and currently working as a senior .NET developer at Leeds Building Society. All right, so when we are talking about, okay, let's integrate AI into our application, why we need to do that? Basically, nowadays, going on with having AI everywhere, users expect more intelligence from your products. So given that you have a website for selling something or providing some services for the users, it's nowadays probably more user expect some AI, at least a chat into your websites, not going through all the menus, going click here, click that. So users are just saying, okay, I can give what I need as a prompt, and then you do everything for me. I don't need to go through many buttons, and then actually you give me what I need. And then if you think about it, if you have a personalized AI for every user, imagine that users coming to your website, your AI already knows the user, what they bought before, what was talking about, having kind of a friend for the user. So they are actually, it's a cool feature for users to have something like a co-pilot in your website. And also, given that users are like coming to your website using your product, basically, AI is becoming an expected feature. If you remember, for example, in like maybe 10 years ago, 2010 or 15, mobile application was an expected feature for all the products. If they went to a website but they didn't have a mobile application, users start saying, okay, why I have to every time open my browser to just go in checking some of the stuff there? Why not just having a mobile application? It is handy to use, or exploring many features. Now AI is becoming like that. They expect to have it everywhere, right? And of course, until you don't integrate AI into your product, you cannot make a value. It's not just doing some prototype or experimentation with the AI. You have to integrate it to your product, and then you can make value of it. So here we know that for the AI, there are two big AI usage for developers, which basically AI for the code, all of the tools that currently we are using, Copilot, Cloud Code, Gemini, this for generating code, which going to the first side of it. And then there is another side is using the AI itself into our code, which in this session, we are going to focus on this part, how we are going to use it in the code to integrate AI. So if we think about it, we just simulate the scenario that we're going to use in a very high level. There will be a client, such as web or mobile. They will send a prompt for your backend side. And then you already connected to some LLMs. Many LLMs are there. And you send that prompt to the LLM. You get the response. You may want to save it to some data source for a future use, and then send the response back to the web, to the client side, right? So this is a very high level one. You can see those LLM as simple as a third-party APIs, which most of the backend side probably you have it, you're using it. But when it comes to the LLMs, we need to think about another things as well. So before, or maybe currently, we were using chat completion API for integrating the AI into our application. If we want to just checking what was or what is the iChat client, if you want to use it, for example, here you need to first, if you're using Azure OpenAI, you can just add your endpoint. If your application is running inside Azure services, you can put Azure credential, or simply you can use your API key for connecting to your Azure OpenAI. And then based on the model you're using, you can create the iChat client. After that, you can start dealing with the LLMs with all of the features that it is possible to use. So here it is a simple scenario that is, of course, a console application. You will have a loop on like getting prompt from user, sending it to the to LLM. You have the chat history every time you put the message from the user into the chat history, and then again provide all of those history for the LLM. LLM would process those messages and just return a response for you, right? But if you see this simple example here, it will be a problem that the chat history, when it is becoming bigger and bigger, when user have a long discussion with your LLM, every time if you want to pass this chat history to the LLM, there are some problems. And also, if you want to save them into a database, there are also another problems. For sending the chat history, it will consume more tokens. Then it will cost you more cost, actually. And in case of having some databases, probably some issue with the security or saving those messages as well. So I just mentioned them here as well. The integration, when you're using the OpenAI like chat completion, basically the nature of the LLMs are stateless. They are stateless. They cannot remember anything. You lose context after each request. Basically, that the reason that every time you're providing that chat history, it is for that, because you have to again provide all the context for the LLM to again understand what was the history of the messages, the conversation, and then provide a response for you. And if you want to store that history manually into a database or anywhere, it can be error prone. We know that as a backend developer, every time we have to think about, okay, what if the database was down? What is if there is some exceptions? You need to think about retry policy, many things, right? And as you are doing it on your own, it probably have some security issues as well, such as prompt injection or data leakage that can be happen in your site. So that is all the reason that although HTTP chat completion is fine, probably will give you whatever you need, but it is not good enough, let's say like that. So that brings us to have this OpenAI assistant and also the newer version OpenAI responses, which in this session we are going to talk about both of them, how to use them in .NET applications. So what was the reason for it? So the first reason, as we said, was like a stateless or difficult to handle the conversation or having them for different users. They are trying to bring some experience, like co-pilot experience, one assistant for user for different area of your product. If you have like, let's say, online shopping, what if you want to have assistant for like suggesting new stuff for the user? Or what if you have different assistant for customer service? They are highly customizable based on the instruction you provide for them, and that is the most important part for both assistant and responses that we will see in the demo. The instruction, basically you define their behavior, what you need to do, what you don't need to do for the assistant. So you define all of the behavior for them, and then they can also have access to run parallel tools such as file search, code interpreter, or just simply you can provide some custom functions that during sending prompt for the assistant, they can call your functions as well. And the most important thing is they are stateful. They have state management. The assistant automatically manage the conversation state, which is the most like benefits of them to have this in place. So let's a little talk about the different parts of the assistant. If we see the assistant as a whole, we will have different threads. You can see the threads as a conversation. Basically, what we need to achieve in this session, if you see the ChatGPT website, every time you go to the ChatGPT, on the left side, you can see lists of the conversation you had before. So each of those conversation is a thread in a simple word, right? So each thread can have multiple messages, both from the user and the assistant part. And then you just keep adding the messages to the thread. And at some point, you want to get response from the LLM. Then you have to run the assistant. So, but the run is doing their job asynchronously. So they will send back something asynchronously and then just give the object of the run saying, okay, you call me to run an assistance based on the thread. This is your object. Now you have to again check what is the status of that run. Is it completed? Is it expired? Failed? So you have to loop over checking the run to be completed or no, which probably one of the problem with the assistant is that as well. So let's just, again, this is stateful. They are stateful. They have persistent state, tools, and files. So one time you're defining those tools and files, and then assistant will just use those features. They can maintain memory across the sessions, which is really a good things to have when it comes to have a like conversation-based features in your product. And because it is the part of the Azure AI services, so you can have the enterprise security, which is really good in case of when comparing to when you're doing it on your own, you have to take care of many things. Okay, so let's just talk about how we can create an assistant. So here I have AI endpoint and AI API key, which again, you have to create one OpenAI client. And then simply you can say, give me the assistant client, and you can start dealing with all of those available options for the assistant. First one is create one assistant here programmatically, which I don't recommend. It is better to create your assistant on the Azure portal and then keep everything there. Then just you can reuse the ID of this assistant into your code, which in the demo, I'm going to use that way. Basically, because you can manage all those system instructions, tools within your Azure portal. And then in the code, you're just separating the stuff. In the code, you can just reuse the ID and then sending prompt for the assistant. And the second thing after creating the assistant is for create a thread. As I said, based on thread are the conversations. Once user wants to create a new chat with your LLM, you create a new thread, and then you will have to add the messages simply just by calling create message. You put the thread ID and then the user input, which is based on the message role is the user one. All right, that is it. And then the final step is run the assistant. You will saying, okay, this is my thread ID and this is my assistant ID, which here in the code we are reading from the app setting. So this create run, it will just create an object for you, and it is not done yet. You have to call that run again. Give me the run that you just created for me, and then you're checking until it is in the in progress or queued status. You will have to iterate on it until you get it is done. Done means either completed or failed or expired, some other statuses. Only if it is completed, then you go for getting the assistant message, what it respond to you, right? In case of like failing statuses, you will have to take care of it, either retry it, either like telling the user retry again. Right, that is it. I think that is fine. And now let's just go for our demo here. Before that, let's just check what we have in the here. I think, guys, if you have any question, Scott, let me know, because there are different screen. I'm seeing this screen. Is it fine?
Yeah, right now I'm seeing the Azure portal.
All right. Okay. So I have one Azure OpenAI already created. So if you go to the Azure Foundry, you will have a bunch of options here for the Azure OpenAI, which currently we are focusing on the assistant part. So basically, for creating the new assistant, it is just simply you can have multiple assistant as well, which is a good idea by using the same model, for example, but different assistant with different responsibilities. So here I have created one assistant here. I gave it one simple instruction. And then this is the assistant ID I was talking about. We can just reuse this assistant ID into your code, and then just that. You don't need to create every time assistant programmatically. So here I have the instruction is you're an AI assistant that only talks about food based on the user mood. So this is the main responsibility for my assistant. I also give him some kind of like remember the user mood or personal info, something very simple. Probably in your real world application, you will have a very long instruction, very well defined instruction, because the instruction is probably most important part of these whole of responses or assistant. All right. So this is the code. This is very simple Blazor application I created for this demo. You can see this is on my GitHub account as well. You can check it later on to go deeper and debug the code. But let's first run the code. Let's see what we have here. All right, so this is, as I said, all of these application was created by the cursor. I'm not good at the front end stuff. And so given that this is your production, and then some user will come to your website logged in and then start chatting with your services, with your LLM. And I will put my name here. So let's just saying hi and then seeing what it is returning. So the assistant, based on the responsibility I gave, it is trying to ask me, how are you feeling today? And your mood based on the food. So these responsibilities based on that simple instruction I gave and nothing else. So let's say I am excited today. So this is based on your mood. It will be suggesting some food for you. So such as this nachos or crispy, probably when you're excited, it's good to try. And given that this is the like as I said, this is the website. So another user can also concurrently coming to your website and then start chatting right away, because maybe it knows about what this service is, and right away saying, I am sad today, just sad. Let's see, can make me happy or no. So yeah, so this is like kind of things it is suggesting. And because based on the responsibility, if I asking something else, tell me about, I don't know, UK history, right? Let's see if it can. Yeah, so I only talk about the food based on your mood. So we are trying to limit the LLM, because LLM has a wide range of the knowledge based on the models they trained already. So we are trying to limit their responsibilities. And for example, I come back to your website around I don't know, next week, next week, coming to your website and saying, what was my mood? Let's see if, yeah. So here it understands, or it remembers my mood, because now we will see the code. I didn't provide anything of the chat history or the conversation history, but it remembers because they are managing the state on the OpenAI side. So this is really cool. You don't need to do anything about understanding the user, the conversation history. So it's just like a Copilot one. You can always coming back and then start talking with the LLM. All right. So if we come back here, as I said, this is like I'm using dependency injection to adding the Azure OpenAI client. And I have one class here using the assistant. So already injected the Azure OpenAI client, and now we need to create the assistant client object by calling get assistant client, just that. And then after that, we start using it. All of those features like threads, adding messages, running the assistant, it is coming under this object. All right. So basically, as I said, when a user wants to start a new chat, a new conversation, first of all, you need to just start a thread or create a thread for it. Because this is this is the demo. I have a list of conversation in memory to just get a dictionary between the username and the conversation for showing the list of there. You can save it somewhere else. Probably a database is a good idea. But for just saving the thread, what is the thread for this user or list of the thread for this user? So I am creating a thread here and then just put the thread ID for future use. Then when it comes to add the message, here I am saying this is the conversation for the user. Use that thread ID and then add it here. When it comes to running the agent, the assistant, I am trying, as I said here in the presentation, we are looping over for the getting the actual response from the LLM. So if it was completed, I am just calling this get messages, just limiting the first page of it, and then put the message of the assistant. All right. So here we have multiple statuses. If I can show you, yeah. So here it is queued, in progress, requires action, canceling, many statuses on the run status, actually this one. Well, yeah. If it is only completed, you can get the response, but you can handle all of the other statuses. If it is failed, then probably providing some error messages, or it is expired, taking longer time to provide the response. But in the completed one, you can see the assistant response for your prompt. All right, that was it for the assistant part.
Saeed, there's a question before you move on to the next that I wanted to put up here. Does what you just showed persist anything about the user across the different chat contexts?
Yeah. As I said here, they have memory across session for a specific thread. So if you have them, they can remember the user information based on the different threads. So I think that is the thing they can remember all the data context. Well, probably one thing that I think we need to mention it here, and that is the truncation, because they have one truncation strategy as well. I think when it is coming to run, we can set the truncation here. If we see it, basically, although we are saying they are managing the state, but it is not like infinite messages. They try to truncate based on probably some strategy here. I'm not sure where it was, but you can set that the strategy to truncate based on like message count, like saying remove the last 100 messages or 10 messages, or let the LLM to decide to just summarize the messages to get something out of it. Right? Hopefully the answer was useful for the audience. Yeah.
And we have one more question here. before we move on, do you think the agent user interaction protocol can play a key role in designing better UIs for agent-based systems and LLM-powered apps? Any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I think this is probably more on uh, agent user interaction, because in the responses one, we can use these things for as a computer tool. I think I didn't use it to be honest, but definitely if your UI requires some interact with the LLM to understand their behavior, and it is mostly useful when you're coming with writing some probably end-to-end tests as well. It can be helpful, but yeah, I'm not that expert in that area, to be honest.
Okay, no problem. Why don't we move on? I know you were going to
Yeah,
transition into a different area here.
yeah, sure. All right. So just quickly, I have one slide about this one for the responses. So OpenAI is replacing the assistant with their new responses API. So they are changing the way that all of the things like stateful stuff, it is still remains true for the responses versus the assistant, but there are some changes and also some flexibilities for the responses. So for the assistant, they are using file search, code interpreter, and function calling. But in the responses, there are more options, such as MCP tools or other computer use or other stuff. Although you can do all of them with the custom function calling, but still, when it is coming out of the box, it will be more reliable to use. All right. So let's go to the code. I'm just trying to right away jump here for checking the AI responses. Here I have a class, the same functionality for the assistant, but here I am implementing that one with the OpenAI responses client. So here the again, we need to create one instance of OpenAI response client by just, you still need to inject your OpenAI client, and then by calling get OpenAI response client, you need to give your model name here, and then after that you can start using it. So responses are simpler than the assistant to use, basically. So all of them, as we saw there in the assistant, we have to add the messages to the thread. But here we are trying to get or create the response item for the LLM. And you need to provide the instruction and other basically other configuration for the LLM. And then also I just put it here to not forgetting mentioning it. So here we will have different tools you can use. So such as code interpreter, file search, image generation tool, MCP tools. So this is, you have more options when it comes to using the responses. And then this is the important side of it. So every time that if you want to keep the things like keeping the previous response ID, every time it will give you something such as, okay, you send a prompt, it gives you a response, but next time you just need to provide the previous response ID to give the LLM a chance to retrieve the context of the previous conversation, and then it, by this way, it will can relate different part of the conversation between user and the LLM. And this is the main part, basically. Once it is, you provide the items and the options, you can just simply say, create a response for me, right? And right away, most of the times, the problem with the assistant here, if you remember, we were talking about the run. This run, it will be running, returning an object with the queued or in progress status. But most of the time, response will right away give the actual response for you. So it will be in the completed state. So you don't need to, like, again, loop over calling the get responses. But sometime, if you're doing some longer execution, such as image generation, or you are doing other stuff such as file search, probably it will take longer time. And then it will saying, okay, I create a response for you. This is the ID for the response, but the status is not complete. So you just need to check if it is not completed. Then you do over the simple, again, checking if it is not completed. Check again, and then until you get the response out of the LLM. And yeah, here it is again doing this stuff because most of the code here is around for this Blazor app to keep things updated. But that is the main part of using the response, and then just calling this get output text. It will give you the assistant text. As you can see, it is a little simpler than the responses versus the assistant. So let me just quickly run this one as well to just see how will it be. So now we are using the responses. Well, basically, I think I need to actually inject the other service, which is the responses. Right, now it is good to go. So if I say something here, yeah. So if I have called that one, I just want to see the status of it. Yeah, so you can see the right away it is returning completed because it was a very light conversation. It is very good difference actually, because every time in the run, in the assistant, I have to do that loop over it, no matter it is a small conversation or no. But here, it is just right away send back the response for me. And yeah, I think that is, I am now happy. All right. So now the previous response ID, it is also here because I saved it before. And then I just put it back to just give a little more context for the LLM. I think that is it for the the responses API. And now I want to actually raise another issue in general when it is coming to the LLMs. When we are talking about having production, now how you want to write tests basically for an LLM, because the LLMs by nature, they are unpredictable. They are undeterministic, let's say. So you cannot predict what they are, the behavior of the LLM. And when it comes to a production, you cannot ship a production without having tests. So that is like I was thinking about it recently, maybe a few months ago. And then I am trying to create a NuGet package to how to write unit tests, at least, or maybe integration tests also possible, to just trying to make it a little more deterministic. And if we can just quickly check what I did here, also it is open for all community to contribute if they like. So basically what I did here, it is very simple one. For example, here, if there is you can create a iChat client as a general interface for dealing with the LLMs, and then you can say with this prompt, it should contain this response. Well, the main thing is you cannot have a dedicated response. You cannot equal. You just need to making sure that this prompt, it is containing the actual things you want, and it is also working with all of the other models or also the custom one. It's supporting many other scenarios with supporting the regex one. And also, if you I'm using it in my one of my project, because one thing that it was a little annoying, like for JSON response validation, if you're expecting in the instruction you're saying, okay, that the response should be in this structured format. So it is good to checking based on the response you're sending back, and function call, tool call verification. If you're telling the LLM or adding more function, how you're gonna making sure that all of the functions are actually called by the LLM. Because going on, when you're developing a product, maybe other developers also adding more features, more functions, and maybe some overlapping between the different functions. LLM cannot decide. So it is good to have. Currently, as of now, it's just a simple one. I'm working on it. So if you want to more, you can make a comment on this live to have your opinion as well about how you're actually think about it, to have some testing on the LLM. All right, I think that is it. I am done here. It was a little more quicker than normal, but yeah, that is
Oh,
it.
this was great. I wanted to make sure, I wanted to go back and show folks the dependencies you were taking on in your sample application to do all of this. For example, I assume you were using the Azure OpenAI
Yes.
package. So if we were to pop open your CS proj file, let's take a look at that. So if folks wanted to accomplish this, they can kind of see which dependencies they need to take on.
Yeah, it is all. If you want to set up this Azure OpenAI, all you need is, let me just do this one as well. So you need to have your Azure OpenAI service endpoint, and then you will have the API key. Then you can create an instance of the Azure OpenAI client, just simply adding as a singleton, because you don't need to every time create the OpenAI client. That is all the main dependency. And that also, I have one assistant options, which basically is nothing but the assistant ID in case of you want to use the assistant. As I said, this is setting on my environment variable, but if you want to, if you created already this assistant into the Azure portal, you can just use this ID here to set there, and then the model name you're using, which here I am using like ChatGPT 4o mini, a little old, but yeah, cheap. So that is it, I think. Scott, anything else you were looking at?
Couple of things I'll point out, because I've walked through this myself doing different things. You'll notice when you start to use Azure OpenAI, it's not called a model, it's actually called a deployment. So it looked like in your case, Saeed, you were using GPT 4o mini.
Yeah,
and that's what we would call the deployment.
Yeah, actually, this is calling deployment.
Yeah. So figured I'd mention that because that may trip up some folks that are just getting started with this. The other thing I would note is in the code we were just looking at in Visual Studio, you'll notice the Azure OpenAI client constructor there is, it's actually using an API key for authentication. Now you may be looking at this and thinking, there's no way I can do that at work. I have to use something else. The good news here is you can go beyond API key and you can actually use Microsoft Entra ID for a token-based authentication setup. And then you could start using role-based access control, and that's when you get into more of an enterprise-grade solution. So recognize that is possible here.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point, because here you have many options when you want to create the Azure OpenAI, such as the token credential, which is coming from, like, here we are like usually using default Azure default credential, probably.
Yeah, it's a
I need
Azure
to use the
credential.
Azure identity package.
Yep.
But that is like you have many options. Once you're into your services deployed to the Azure side, you can get benefits of all of those options, which is really, really good in case of like enterprise. You cannot just sharing this API key, although maybe in the Azure Key Vault as well, but the best practice is just using the Entra ID.
Yep, 100%. One last thing I'll note, and I have some kind of insider knowledge I'll share here with folks. We're quickly moving to a place where my team can move away from this Azure OpenAI library that's being used. I'm going to share a doc in the chat. In the near future, you'll be able to just take a dependency on the OpenAI NuGet package, and here's the doc I wanted to share. In the near future, just take a dependency on OpenAI. This doc shows you how to make that migration possible, how to move from what Saeed shared today to what's coming in the near future.
Well, actually, yeah, that was one thing annoying, to be honest. I was looking for this, for example, here in my still like Azure OpenAI, or these are like in the beta version. I'm not sure. Maybe that's the reason, a little getting more complicated, these different packages. So you are going to move them into the extension AI or somewhere else?
So what I'm saying is, like, if you were to open your browser, and we could do it right now if you want, go out to NuGet.org/packages/OpenAI.
OpenAI.
Yep.
Oh,
So
yeah.
This is where I have some explaining to do. So this, believe it or not, is the OpenAI library for .NET that the same team that builds the Azure OpenAI library actually builds this. There's some consolidation going on. So in the very near future, as I mentioned, you can just use this to interact with either OpenAI directly or Azure OpenAI, as you saw in the demos today.
Okay. That is, yeah, it's cool. So basically, you're gonna retire that the Azure OpenAI package. Yeah.
Eventually, we're not there yet, but I'm just giving you, kind of pulling back the curtain, telling you what's coming down the road. So
that's really cool, because when you have a unified version of these packages, it's better. And this OpenAI, I found it more than very popular when it comes to use this OpenAI LLMs, and that's cool. Actually, it's a good move.
Question here: will that new version work with just any OpenAI compatible endpoint? There's not a clear answer right now, which is why the cutover hasn't happened. I don't know current state off the top of my head. Start with the doc I shared in chat, and you can provide feedback through that channel there. I know for sure this will work with the responses API. I've tried it myself. You can use the GPT models with that as well.
There's also a question about version, Scott. So is it .NET 8 or?
This is compatible with .NET 8.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it is already there.
Yeah, if you look at the frameworks tab there, the reason, .NET Standard 2.0 would have you covered, but this also targets .NET 8 specifically. It's a multi-targeting scenario.
But currently it is already there, or this is still the responses is already there, right? I believe.
Yeah, what I
so.
described will work with responses.
Mm.
In fact, I may even have a personal project I can share in chat that where I've tried this out.
Yeah.
I love that we have an expert on the show today to talk
I wouldn't
about
say
what's
expert.
coming and the inside scoop.
There are people far smarter than me working on this stuff behind the scenes. Yeah, so in the chat, I've shared a GitHub repo where I've done exactly as what I've described, kind of showing what's coming in the near future. So if you have any questions about how that works, just give that a look. That will also show something that Saeed was alluding to earlier in the show, how to call MCP tools from the Responses API. So all good stuff. I think, Saeed, you'd probably agree that I'm sure that's one of the biggest reasons you'd want to move to the Responses API so that you can start to call into those MCP tools.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I mean, I haven't used this, the computer use. Still, it is very interesting in the introduction. It basically provides a way to interact with some applications that are running on your computer or a browser that interacting with the UI. You can go click here, there as an agent. So that is also really cool. And this flexibility for the responses, definitely, I think it brings more value for the products. And yeah, and then also it is simpler to use. Assistant was a little kind of specifically those looping over the getting the response, the final one was a little headache for me. But yeah, this responses already, I think, solved that one.
Yep. Got a comment here from Nicholas. The other thing this does that I've been wanting to do is capture the conversation to a history or long-term memory. Yeah.
So again, yeah.
Yeah, it's a space. It feels like this changes weekly. So you gotta take what you learned today from Saeed and just continue to build on top of that.
Yeah, I think that those, like, capturing all of this stuff as a like pure the text you had, probably you need to have, let's say, another resource or a storage to store all of them. But when it comes to the LLM, you don't need to give all of them, or they cannot keep all of the histories. They don't need. So basically, even if in the ChatGPT or other tools, if you have it or you have the mobile application, if you go somewhere, they have memory. They are capturing some information about you once you're trying to chat with them. So based on those memories, they will understand who are you or what are you, where you're talking about. So, but in case of like just capturing all the conversation, it's better to just keep them somewhere else.
Ooh, we have a really good question that's come in here.
This one?
All good stuff. Can you suggest some tips to optimize the query or chat for less token utilization, which reduces cost? Any suggestions there, Saeed?
Well, not really, to be honest. So it depends on, probably you can get some multiple call from the LLM, like summarizing the main point of the first attempt of it. And then also you can put a limitation on the tokens, like max token the responses or assistant can use for providing this like things. Okay, you're saying if it is going like hallucinating or trying to generate some stuff, just stop it at some point and then just return the response for you. It will cut your cost as well. And yeah, I think this is the two ways I can imagine. Probably you have more, Scott.
Yeah. One thing I'll add to that, for me personally, I find going out to the OpenAI API docs, platform.openai.com is the website. You can typically read through those docs and find optimization techniques. One example I ran into was I was calling MCP tools from the Responses API, and I knew that I didn't need to use the 24 tools that were bundled into this MCP server I was using. I wanted to filter it down to a list of just a couple that I needed. And there's a way to do that, and that both reduces latency and cost. And again, I learned about this through reading through those docs. So I would send you there to find those optimization techniques that you're looking for.
Mm.
Let's see.
Yeah, basically, when it comes to have way more tools, the way that LLMs sometimes are getting confused to selecting what tools to be called. And yeah, if it is the way, I didn't know you can, before sending to the LLM, you can kind of find out what kind of tool it is possible to be used, and then shorten the list for the LLM. That's cool.
Yeah, and you can actually do this in GitHub Copilot within VS Code too. There's a nice UI for doing this, a little tools icon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seems like a good time to wrap up the show. We've had lots of great questions from the audience. Thank you for that. Thank you to our viewers for taking the time again today to watch this. Thank you to Saeed for sharing all of your knowledge. You can check out other streams like the one you watched today. We have recordings, and those are available out at dot.net/live. And again, thanks everyone. Appreciate it. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.